I have a favor to ask you
Yeah.
before we end this. And by the way, this is completely unexpected. You did not know I was going to ask you this, so you can totally say no.
Okay.
You won't though. You can totally say no if you want to. So where does that feel in your body right now? You don't know what the fuck I'm about to ask you.
Excitement.
Oh,
Like
hey,
when people are like, "Can I ask you something really weird?" I go, "Oh my God,
totally you can.
yes,
Totally.
please."
All right. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to um, I'd like to attach a video of you singing at the end of this for everybody to see.
Oh, you mean just like sing something off the cuff?
No. Oh, well, yeah. Fuck. Would you do that? That'd be great.
Oh,
No, that's not what I
wait,
meant. I
yeah,
meant one of your
catch a
videos.
video? Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I was like, you're really gonna put me on the spot.
That's so listen, as you know, really want to hear you sing in person, but I would never put you on the spot like that.
Well, the way you were building up to it, man, it was like, what's gonna come out of his mouth? Attach a video? Sure.
I put my favorite one on there.
Put your favorite one on there.
Okay. Because the one you sent me,
Okay, great. Yeah, that one, the Phil Collins, the remake.
I love it. I love it. Hey, so we were just talking right before we started recording about a project that you're putting together that I'm totally excited about. Like I cannot wait to get a ticket to it. But it's you. It's completely different than the business stuff that we're going to talk about today. But before we get into that really great shit, I want to just cover what you're doing. So give us a quick lowdown on it.
Yeah, so I'm a singer and a performer, all the things. That's one of the things. And I like to put on these interesting concert would probably be a good way to kind of like one word it,
Mhm.
but it's a unique way of putting together a concert. And my thing is that I love to get people to feel things so deeply that people that you wouldn't even expect cry or have like the deepest chills. And the way that I do that is I can bring very modern songs and create sometimes I'll rearrange the lyrics to get a point across, and I'll
Sure.
have a theme throughout the event and dancers that embody certain things. And then I'm just a very deep, passionate singer myself. I've got a roar to that. And it's just one of those things too. You have to be there to fully get what I'm saying, but it's chilling, chilling.
So I'm going to preface this by saying you did not do any of that justice. You are an absolutely stunning singer. Like I said something to you not long ago. I don't know what it was, several weeks back. I said, "Hey, listen, this is one of my favorite songs," and you said something about it, and you said, "Oh, I've got that recorded. I'm going to send you it," and you sent it to me, and it was a Phil Collins song, and it was better. I mean, I hate to say this because I don't know who was going to be listening. This is better than Phil Collins. It was um, more meaningful. It was so powerful. Though the power that comes across in your voice when you start singing, like literally enters you. Like it's like a vibration. It's really quite tremendous. So I think anybody who is listening to this, like you have music on Spotify. I know because I've listened to that, but also you have some YouTube stuff also, correct?
I cleaned a lot of it out, but I have a few things on YouTube. We're revamping, if you will. But first, Chris, wow, man, thank you. That's like just that's thank you. Wow.
You're welcome. So,
Doing it in that way.
so the end of that sentence is we're with Angela Ferrari right now. So I can't just tease everybody and tell everybody just go and try to find this woman singer on Spotify. It's Angela Ferrari. Go listen to all of her music. It's quite interesting and amazing. So you're putting on a concert, first one in a bit, right? You've been away from actual concerts for a minute. and you're putting one together, and we were just talking about it before we started recording, and you're looking at a venue that's 900 or so seats.
Mhm.
And when you were talking about it, you just lit the hell up.
Yeah, I felt that inside. Thanks for seeing it.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited to hear you sing on stage. I have seen one clip of you on stage, right? You had one video out there, which was pretty
Sure,
cool.
I have a few. I mean, on social media, I'm sure I have several, but yeah.
Yeah, I found one a while back when we were initially talking. Um, yeah, so that's exciting. So um, let's move from there. Unless, do you want to say anything else about your singing career, because it's deep. You've been
Mhm.
doing it for so long.
Yeah. I mean, it was like in my blood, you know? It was, if I would say, kind of written in the stars, and I was just blessed to have this sort of acceptable way to scream. We all have our trials and tribulations as we grow up, and sometimes we just don't have a outlet for the roar. Like, you know, you just want to like release this built up energy.
Yeah.
And all through my life, it's just been sort of this godsend. So it's a little bit more than just. I was self-taught. I mean, I've done many lessons after I got kind of, you know, did the thing, and it was my career. But I was self-taught just because of a deep passion, and I think that's really what it comes down to. It's like the feeling inside. I would just feel it so deeply. Somehow, I was able to transfer that feeling into others.
So that moves us, I mean, really well into the business that you've built, because it has very little to do with your singing career, yet very much to do with that exact essence, right? Like you sing um, to move people. You sing to change the way people think about things. And your business is called the shift process. And it like the way I understand it, and I'd like you to go much more in depth with it, but the way I understand it is you work with people, and this is mostly executives, but you work with a lot of business people, a lot of very, very, very successful people, um, to help them kind of plug the gaps in their life. Like I know that one of the like I have two focuses. There's a lot of things, like I really want to experience. I want to have great experiences in my life, and that's what I work for. And I want to build a lot of great memories, and I want to build a legacy. And I want, like, there's five things that are really on my hit list. But the underlying part of that is happiness and fulfillment. The two things that I believe are, people mix them up. They're two completely different things in my mind. But the way I understand the shift process and the way you've explained it to me is we walk down these paths, and we grow these businesses, and we grow our families, and we grow these lives, but they're often disconnected.
Mm.
And what you've been able to help people do is kind of bring all of those things together so that you experience this fulfillment. And I think it's very difficult to experience fulfillment in life when your family is a completely different mindset than your businesses, which is a completely different mindset than your personal life, which is a completely different mindset to everything else.
Man, you articulate things so well. It's just incredible to listen to how you picked all that up, put these pieces together, and then put them in these words that I couldn't even say like that. But wow, yes, and thank you. But it's interesting. I'll kind of give you like a little story. I do classes and one-on-ones, a little more exclusive to do one-on-ones and even retreats and all this stuff, right? And I'm working with this one guy, and he's new. He had heard about me from another friend that I was working with. And he has everything. I mean everything. My last name's Ferrari, and he has the best Ferrari in town. It's incredible. And he had all these dreams and goals for himself, and he did it. And then some. And he's sitting there with me, and he just, for whatever reason, being with me had him just be a little vulnerable. And there was just such defeat. And the only words that came out of his mouth were, I can't believe that this is it. Yeah.
Wow.
I fought and I fought and I fought and I fought. and I can't believe that this is it. And so I feel like there's a lot of people that can relate to that experience where we'll go after these big things, not realizing that there might be a subtle belief in there that once I get this thing, then I'll be fulfilled, or then I'll be enough, if we really wanted to go deep in there, right? So it's important to even understand, I think, the foundational point of which we create anything. And it doesn't matter where you are in this game. It's just we can still start to begin to tap into the foundational point of which I create anything. And I think this, to your point, aligns those gaps in case we're doing all this blood, sweat, and tears, and then the arrival point is a big, like wah, wah, wah experience.
So, like, give me an example, if you don't mind. Like, the great majority of the people who I know inside of my personal life, on my board of directors, my close friends are mostly entrepreneurs. Not everybody, but most of them are. Almost everybody who listens to my stuff on YouTube or iTunes or Spotify or TikTok or wherever, they're entrepreneurs, CEOs, C-level players, people like that. Is there something that is a way for somebody to know if they're walking towards that burnout, towards a place where they're going deeper into an area where they're not going to be fulfilled?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. I will just simply put it like this. A lot of the times when we get to that level, I work with a lot of people and they get very busy. It's the experience of a busy mind. Mm-hmm. And there's almost the inability to be still. It's almost uncomfortable. That is the biggest red flag. If you cannot be still, you can't be free.
So explain that more, because I'm able to be still, but then I have trouble sleeping. So
yeah,
my ability to be still and just sit and release pretty much whatever I need to release in order to feel at peace and calm and clear, so that I could think more fluidly, that's easy for me. And I shouldn't say easy, but it's something that I do on a regular basis. But then to fall asleep is easy at nighttime. But then I wake up and then like 3 o'clock in the morning. So would you say, hey, I don't know, maybe you are getting close to that tipping point? Are you're gonna explode, Chris?
Well, listen, I'm not a psychiatrist by any means, but
wait a minute. What did I say that made you think that I'm a psychiatrist? Because that's a problem.
Because there's just so many variables to like what you're saying. But at the end of the day, I understand your point. We're 95% subconscious, so there's always going to be areas that we're not consciously aware that we're disconnected. So first, just start with that. Assume there are areas you're disconnected, and then assume that if you're waking up in the middle of the night, that likely it's linked to some disconnect you have somewhere. And so when we begin to cultivate these experiences of stillness, and I'd love to like tap into how you do that, because there's probably other areas where you could do it and you're like in the go, and you might be calling it stillness, but it's really just this habit and this program of this go. And before you know it, you've been giving all of this out, and you haven't really been fulfilled in areas that really aren't even associated to like contributing to your business or contributing to other people, or like we lose touch. Right. We don't even know what that even is anymore, because for so long our focus has been in these other areas. Like sometimes I notice people can't even sit with long enough, like the idea of what would be just for me that seemingly is not affiliated with me growing these things, because they all need me. And so that's just the way I began to be inside of life. But the interesting thing is when we begin to tap into these areas that aren't connected at all to these things we're building and what we're doing, it starts to fuel us in these ways that we can't even conceive of yet. And then we begin to tap into, and it's a contribution to these other things because we tap into a super intelligence, these ideas that come out of nowhere. It's sort of like, they would talk about it, right? In the old days, they would talk about these wise older men would say, I would have this question about something, and this is a question for you. Like, I can't sleep, I don't know. And so you're in a frequency of the question. And then they would just trust that the answer would come, but they would have to go take a walk in nature, go do these things, like let it go completely. And that would become work. It is work. When you let everything go and let yourself like get in this mode where you'll receive from a whole different, which I call frequency, all of a sudden these answers come like even more effortlessly, and it opens up this space in our life. But we have to be willing to do things a little, like adjust things. And sometimes when we have these well-oiled machines, that can be scary because we think it's all going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can see that. Yeah. So your definition of work, like these old timers would have a conversation, and I could picture this whole thing in my head because, I've seen these old movies where they go and they talk to the shamans, or they talk to, the wise men of the tribes, and they pose either a question to you or they tell you you need to go seek something. And then you are now in nature and you're walking around and you're seeking whatever it is, whether it's physical or a mental thing. So you're calling that work. That is in my life, part of the solution is to get out in nature. Like when I say I could get into this silence, this peaceful state, like I could sit there and do progressive relaxation, or I could just sit there and like breathe and begin to clear my head, and then actually feel everything just kind of get, I don't want to say numb, but relaxed, right? I could feel at peace. Or I could do the exact opposite, which is go out and do physical exertion, which is tremendous for me, like walking on the beach, or hiking in the mountains, or doing anything where I am moving, and it seems to be washing away things that are cluttering up my ability to think.
Yeah. And you get your own evidence. Like it does have, sometimes it has this seemingly effortless, like all of a sudden, just this is when what you're talking about, you're tapping into that great flow. That great flow. Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, they talked about this great source, right? The information formulas and shit that they would come up with, it wasn't on the planet yet. They would align with that source. And that was their main job. Like, how do I align with this great source? It's no different for any of us. But we get caught in these programs, and it doesn't mean you can't be efficient and you can't be, like I was saying, a well-oiled machine. But it does have this sense of like a blood, sweat, and tear, situation, the grind, if you will. It's almost eerie how much flow can happen, but there's a rite of passage, especially if we're so used to doing it this one way, and it's working. I might be suffering a little bit, but it's working. It takes a little trust to begin to get into these other areas by feeding myself. And that essentially is the work. That's it. That's the work. And it causes, there's a ripple effect to that. I might say there's a problem out there, and I might be fixated on that problem. And I'm just fixated and grinding away and like fighting to fix this thing. And let's just say I decide to put that thing down for a moment. And I exit the situation because it is what it is. And I need to just exit for a minute. And I go tend to myself, the biggest work of all. And that's hard right in that moment, isn't it? That's so hard. Wait a minute, everything's gonna fall apart. somehow, some way, don't take my word for it. I just have so much data on it. I can say it factually. I've worked with so many people, classes, things that I now have data that this is a fact. You start to feel this harmony, like whatever that is to fuel in you. You love nature. You love these things where you just absorb that and get yourself to that neutralized state. I don't know how it happens, man. Just all of a sudden, either you have an idea that you didn't think of before, or all of a sudden you'll get a call and be like, Chris, we worked it out, bro. It's all good. I don't know. It just works out that way. Somehow, this might be weird to think about it this way, but it's, they've kind of showed us it's kind of a hologram. Whatever you're tuned to inside is just being reflected outside of you.
So what's an example of how you do that personally?
Many ways, but I'm really big on what I like to call pattern interrupts. So I'll do that when I'm just going through my day. There's an accumulation of energy. Have you ever felt that? You're going through your day in the early morning, it's all soft, like the surface of the water. I don't know if you've ever been on like a glass lake where no one's up yet, no boats are out yet. It's like that. You're having your coffee, you're just reflecting, you're doing your thing. And then as the day goes on, it's just this accumulation of energy that gets upon us. You can only tell by just feeling that feeling. And so what I'll do in the middle of the day is I'll just take these breaks. I'll take these breaths. I'll feed myself in that way, so where I always recognize if I'm feeling this sort of neutrality inside of myself, because I know I make the best decisions from there. I know I am the most effective from there, most creative from there, and I have to be that way. And my signal is always like when I'm getting bunched up. I can tell I'm getting irritable. Like that's also good because it's my sign. It's my symbol. Angela, go do your little weird thing that you do. Excuse me, everyone. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I cannot. I mean, I can't picture you getting irritable. That's hysterical.
Yeah, it happens. My people that I work with would probably laugh at you right now, but I find humor in it now. You can be lighthearted about that.
What would you say to somebody who finds this kind of release in exercise or something like that?
I think that's great. I think exercise is a fantastic way to release. And there's two kinds. Sometimes it's about doing something that doesn't mean I'm going like a strictness in me just to get healthy or get fit or that's this other thing that I'm talking about, just to take these moments, these pauses to breathe, where it's almost like, wait a minute, I need this to feed something, either my health, either my business, either my family, either the thing, and the breath thing is just, I don't get it. Just taking a pause and I don't have time.
Right.
Those things end up fueling us the most. So while exercise is great, I do that. I've done it forever. I'm a fan of that kind of discipline in my life. It's still not the same thing that I'm talking about. Still active mind. Unless yoga is a meditation.
So you said it's still, I was interrupting you right when you said something important. So I apologize. Yeah. It's still the active mind, you said, so that's not as good.
I mean, I'm starting to get a little personal in my opinion. I'd have to really be talking to someone specifically and start to see where you're connected to working out, because I'm just saying, my point is, it's not that working out is bad or in a lower tier or anything like that. I'm just saying oftentimes it's these things that don't seem like they're feeding any of these things directly. It doesn't seem like it's feeding any of it directly. It's very indirect, that somehow, some way causes these other things outside of me to go into a harmonic state. Yeah. Like all the things that I'm trying to hit head on, my marriage, my job, my thing, I'm going to fix this. It's like the breath and the meditation and the things that just aren't affiliated with it, and getting myself still and calm just for me. It doesn't get me fit. It doesn't, I mean, in a way it does, because cellularly, when all my cells are in that harmonic state, when I go into a state of stillness, the body responds to that. So in a sense it is, but my mind will go, I don't have time for this little silly thing over here. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. I I think you and I had this conversation a while back, and I'm not quite sure, and I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but for this, it'll be new to everybody else. I had a really good friend for many, many years. He just passed away less than a year ago. Bob Proctor. So he was very big in the personal development field, and I was very fortunate. I knew him as a student of his many, many lifetimes ago. And then he was part of one of my companies, which I was honored about, and it was amazing, but it gave us a different relationship. It gave us the ability to actually have like friendship conversations. And then we became friends, and we would sit there and we'd have dinner, or we'd go out and have coffee, and we would do all these different things, and we'd have these deep conversations. And it was fascinating because when I first met him, I knew him from seeing him on stage, and throughout every evolution of the relationship that I had with him, nothing ever changed. What he talked about remains the same. Like, he had such a strong belief in this one thing, and I believe it's what you're saying, but that's where I'm going right now. He said, everything, if you just picture, everything is made up of this ether, right? And this ether flows through everything, and it all is just a different vibration. So your desk is the same ether that is Jupiter, the planet, which is the same as you, which is the same as your goldfish and your dog and your plants and the air and everything else. It's just everything is at a different vibration. And he said, what's fascinating when you think about that stuff is that if that's the truth, which is the truth, then every person is still the same ether. It's just that they're vibrating at the human level. So if we're able to relax and get into peace and get into the right vibration, then we can connect with anybody no matter where they are. And we can connect with all the other thoughts that are in the world, both in the past, the present, and the future. And he was very, very focused on that. And on every level that I knew him, we had many conversations that had that at its heart of the conversation. Different conversations, different levels, but same meaning. Is that
Wow.
basically where you're going?
It's so beautifully said. Yeah, what it does is essentially it changes the vibration of how you're even viewing the world. How maybe once you would have a judgment about somebody, it brings in, because if you're in a higher vibration, as you were saying, then you're not going to look at somebody in the negative way because that vibration wouldn't allow it. So even if things, let's say, remained the same, the shift in you would have everything be different. So it's a beautiful point to fueling ourselves in this way that causes us to have this deep, it's like a reverence, it's an acceptance in the unfolding of life. And anytime we get into resistance about any given situation, and Lord knows you'll be thrown many things that will cause you to feel like that little kink inside, anxiousness. You want to, even if it's an employee or somebody you work with or a friend or a family member or whatever, when we're in resistance, we miss the point, because we're always being, in any given day, we're always being handed all the information we ever need to tune us. But it's always going to start with our ability to look into something. And if you don't have stillness, to my point, you're not going to be able to have enough awareness to allow you to be still enough to not just be in this automatic response and things, just automatic pattern. Even if those patterns are making you millions and millions and millions of dollars, you could very well have a cage made with golden bars, because if you don't have that stillness and awareness, you just can't have enough space between you and how you normally do things regularly in your pattern. There's not enough space. You're trapped in that pattern. And when we're in nothing but patterns in life, there's no freedom in there. There's no magic in there at all.
So I have a story that it's super short. It's hysterical about this, I think. I have a buddy, and I've known this guy for 20 some odd years. Such a wonderful, wonderful guy. Very, very successful. Um, and that, like Angela, super successful.
When you say that, I get what you mean. I really do.
And cuts his own grass.
Oh, so great.
And I said something to him early on in our relationship, and it wasn't, putting him down or anything. But I said, well, why do you cut your own grass? Like, I'm just wondering, because you got a big piece of property, like acres of property. I said, do you do it to get to get away? What do you do? He goes, it's peaceful, man. Like, I process everything that's going on at the office when I'm out there. It's a ride-on lawnmower. So I put my whatever you call them on, the headphones on, that noise canceling headphones. And he goes out there and he just cuts his grass.
So
and
good.
I'm like, that is brilliant.
It is brilliant. And you made such a great point with this, because it's when you start to get in this world of receiving information in this way. What do I mean by that? Maybe after this conversation, there might be a new awareness in you that has you receive, like, hey, a nudge to go do this thing, like, mow 2 acres of grass. It's not logical. It's not about what your mind thinks makes so much sense. It really has nothing to do with that. Intuition and the logical mind have nothing to do with each other. But this is what I'm talking about. When we get enough stillness, it does become like this super intelligence. And a lot of times, like, you have that. And there's just, you can use these areas that you actually have it in, as there is a memory, there's a muscle there that's woke there, and you can begin to bring it into these other areas in your life. There's this story. It's good. It's a made up story, but like, play with me for a second. Van Gogh, right? He's in his backyard and he's in a hammock. And he's just resting and chilling. And he has a nosy neighbor, and the neighbor comes over the fence and he's like, hey, buddy, neighbor, Van Gogh, what are you doing over there? Are you taking the day off? And Van Gogh says, shh, I'm working. And so then the next day, Van Gogh's painting this masterpiece. There's colors flying everywhere. It is just the most extraordinary thing you've ever seen. And the nosy neighbor comes over the fence and he goes, hey, buddy, neighbor, holy crap, man, what are you doing over there? You're working hard. And he goes, shh, I'm resting. Brilliant.
That's freaking, I love that story.
When you get to this level of genius, when people have cracked the code, not only like to abundance, and I don't just mean money, because honestly, Chris, there are people that, I live in this high-rise complex, and there's like workers. I'm Mexican, half Mexican, so I love to just like talk to them, and they're just so down to earth. And I remember this guy cleaning up shit. He was my little buddy. He doesn't work here anymore, but for the longest, we just stopped talking. He was cleaning shit. And he would stop and he'd be like, mi amiga, what a beautiful day. What a beautiful day. And then you got these, guys that are just so busy and uptight and straight face and complaining about the freaking too much salt in their shit or whatever. They're bunched up and they're not really enjoying life. And that's not abundance. I don't care what kind of car you have. I don't care the stuff, but it's a component to it. It's these guys that have merged the worlds where they actually get to experience abundance in their lives. Like, that has nothing to really do with the money part. It's a feeling, it's a sensation. And that guy cleaning up shit felt more abundance than most people I experience in my life. When you get to these genius levels, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, those are powerful words. I mean, fulfillment, enjoyment, abundance. Like, I don't know. And I mean, I'm so blessed. I'm very fortunate to hang out with some wonderful people, have, as friends and colleagues. And I could go through everybody that I know in my head, and I am slowly as we're talking right now. I don't know. I could tell you a lot of them experience moments of enjoyment. some of them feel abundant in certain areas of their life. There's very few that I think enjoy life on a regular basis or are abundant in all areas or most areas. I don't personally think anybody probably feels, this is a tough statement, so I don't know that I should even say it. Achievers normally don't feel full abundance in every area of their life because that's they wouldn't be achievers then. Like there is that mindset,
that drive, like never fully being enough. And so that's going to drive me to keep going. And that's the decoy, that's the decoy. That's only how you've known it to be thus far. And there's so many components to be experienced when you know how to be that achiever. That's not for naught by any means. It's just that the thing about being fulfilled, and that doesn't mean like these little moments where I have that experience in my life. It's like a way of being in the world. It then is not dependent, in fact, on anything outside of me. It comes from within me, and how I am in all situations it's a ripple effect from me. I'm being this way that everything that comes in my path or not is in this deep, like there's a reverence to the experience of life. There's just a reverence, and it has nothing to do with personality. I mean, our personalities are really quite made up. It's like a lot of times people think that they're bound to this way of being, like, hi, my name is Chris. I do like blue. I don't like cheese. I'm a moody guy sometimes. And, we make up these, like, all these ways that we think we are. And
you nailed it for me, by the way. No, I'm kidding.
And we're not that at all. So we strip ourselves, and this is the way we can begin to come from a space of like emptiness, really. And some people are like, I've said this to you before, the number one fear of mankind.
Oh, you did say this. I wrote it down when you said this in the past, because I told you, man, you drop gold sometimes when we talk, and I love that. And I'm blanking on it.
The number one fear of mankind is actually freedom.
Yes.
It's freedom. Because we have to pass through the great void, and that is where I'm no longer who I was, and I'm not yet what I'm becoming. And most people are just terrified to no longer cling. So they would rather, and that's okay, you can live, an okay life and everything will be good, and just it's familiar, and that's all right. When we begin to break out of these personas and go into these new ways of being where we can't cling to any identity, it can be terrifying to people. You think everything's going to fall apart, and it almost has to occur that way at first, and that's why people don't move through that. Eventually, you get anybody that's got to the other side of that will never go, oh my God, I really regret this so much. It's so much more fulfilling than the personality can conceive of. Way more fulfilling. But there's so many things you can't take with you, so many ways of being and how you know yourself to be and all these things. So, that can be a little exhausting and hard to think about logically. But at the end of the day, if we were really just to like nutshell this down, if we can begin to cultivate this stillness in our lives and consider, like, you have ways of that, and there's a rabbit hole, an endless rabbit hole of discovering what this is. Consider that and try to go into like, yeah, I don't know, because if you go into it like you do know, well, then you're blocked. Like, you already got it. Okay, good. You're done. There's nothing you can gain from that point. But inside of stillness and meditation, there's the clear way. There's a reason why every enlightened being in history always said, like, meditation. it's not to get anywhere, it's to show you the truth, right? And so when we get to that quiet mind and that empty space, all of a sudden these ways of being, like, you just are drawn to it. It's presented to you in the moment, in the present moment. It's not like it all happens all at once. It just starts to happen. There's a shift in your vibration, in your frequency, and it's imperative. It should be the vow. It could be the vow. If you really want to feel fulfillment, take the vow.
That's
Vow.
amazing. Yeah. Hence the shift process, right? I mean, that was the long way of explaining it, but the most thorough way of explaining it with examples. What would be, and this is such a difficult question for you to answer probably, because we don't have like a subject in front of you to do this with, but if there were some tactics that could be used to help us get into that mindset that allows us to be open to clearing our head and then being more in alignment with things, what would it be? Like, are there, like you said, meditation for me means something different probably than meditation for you. I was on an island not long ago, and I was there with a bunch of people, and one of the people said, oh, I don't meditate traditionally, but every morning I get up and I watch the fronds on the palm trees for 20 minutes and I just stare at them, and that gaze is my meditation, and it's equally as good, which I could understand, but meditation is one thing, but there's got to be a lot more. Like there's got to be a lot of tricks inside of the bag,
for sure,
or when thing doesn't work.
Yeah,
some tricks.
Yeah. Well, quickly though, to your point of meditation, it's usually the place where you don't want to do it, right? Like let me just do it. I remember for the longest time I'd be like, I'm just gonna stare at the birds longer. I'm just gonna like be with the tree longer. And that's all great, but why wouldn't I just go sit on the cushion? Like, what was it that would not let me just sit there? And then I got so deeply curious, and I'm talking about years, man. I would just get so clever about that. I'm just saying there's something to see about that. And I can't even tell you how many people would tell me, my mind just doesn't work that way. Oh, really? Oh, you got the special mind that doesn't let you sit there? That's the rite of passage. That's the rite of passage. You got to sit there and be with all the stuff, and then maybe even do a guided meditation for 15 minutes and let your mind wander the whole time. That's just revealing you. And then do it again, and then do it again, and do it when you don't freaking want to. So that is a component here. This is why these aren't low-hanging fruits. Nothing of value is. But I will tell you, one of the things we brought up, this is kind of a cool tool, and it takes a minute, again, and enough awareness to like really pause and get what I'm saying. But everything really begins when we have this calmness and stillness with us. Any worthy journey of a higher vibration is going to begin in acceptance. So let's say really some shit hit the fan for you and you got to solve some shit. And you enter that journey in resistance. Wait a minute, what do we got to do? Fire Bob, tell Bill, that's it. Whatever you're doing there, right? You might still get shit done, but you're not going to be a very fulfilled human, and neither are the people around you. But my point is, so if you begin with accepting the situation, but I have a little trick to cause this. You have to have enough awareness, and first you ask the question. There's 3 questions. Question number 1 would be, am I in acceptance? Question number 1. And typically if you ask that question, Chris, likely the answer is going to be no. Right? No. So then the question number 2 would be, am I willing to be? Am I willing to be? You really have to be still enough. Don't rush through this, because you might say, no, I'm not. Then you got to put that shit down, because you're not really going anywhere from here. Mm-hmm. So take your time. When you're ready, you can begin the journey. And then the final question is, because say you say yes to that. Yes, I'm willing to be. That doesn't make you in acceptance just because you're willing to be.
Right.
The final question is, what's it going to take? What's it going to take for me to be in acceptance? If you took these 3 questions in your life and created a habit that got yourself in sincere, deep acceptance in every given moment and anything that came your way, even if it was your everyday going through your programs in your life, you'd be surprised how much resistance we're in. We're in low-level resistance all the time, and we're just calling it normal.
Yeah.
All the time. It would change your whole life.
Can you define acceptance?
Okay, it's an experience in the body. So acceptance. Let's say somebody stole from you.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody you worked with and somebody you trusted stole from you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's on your board and you just like all secret did this shit and it's terrible. Okay, now you just found out and you're about ready to go on this journey and solve things and fix things and go to the lawyers, do whatever you got to do. Well, Phil, right now, Phil, like there's a tension in the body and you're pissed.
Yeah.
That's aggression, right? That's resistance. So let's take a guy that runs an empire, guy number 1, and he's in resistance all the time, and he's got antacids in his drawer, and he's firing people, and he's telling Karen, you gotta tell Bob that's it. He's yelling all the time, high blood pressure, but man, he's running that empire, and he's getting shit done. He's miserable, and he's making everybody else miserable around him. Zero acceptance.
Yeah.
Now you got this other guy, and he's like, let's call him Mr. Johnson. This happened today, the worst news ever. And he goes in and he allows that to be exactly what it is. You know why? Because that's what it is. And he has a calm sense in his body and he receives it like he chose it. And you can even feel your body starts to relax. There's a grace inside of you. Even this is really what your cells are doing. They're starting to tune. They're relaxing and they're in their natural harmonic state.
Mm-hmm.
And when we begin any journey from here, you just have to kind of get your own evidence, what it would cause and the ripple effect it would cause in your life and for others around you.
Got it.
So maybe if somebody stole from you and you were on question number 2, what's it going to take? This is where you start using your creativity for something that's working for you. Maybe what it's going to take for you is you need to go take a drive. You need to go take some breaths. You need to meditate. You need to, whatever it's going to do, like go do what it's going to take. Maybe it's an apology to somebody. Maybe there's usually an action here, some kind of pivot in your body or an action. So we use creativity with that.
I love it. Hey, have you, I'm sure you have, you live in this world. Have you heard the Chinese farmer proverb?
Oh, when like the horses got stolen.
Yes.
I have, but let's hear it. It's a great story.
Listen, I will not do it justice. I will say it, but correct me as I go through if I mess it up.
I say it my own way too. I think that's what makes it so special. I don't even think mine is a Chinese guy. I think he's a Mexican.
I've heard it 3 times, I believe, probably over the last few months, and every time it's different. So my version of it is there's an old Chinese farmer and his son, and they're working the farm, and and it's a difficult life for them. But they work hard, especially the son, and he says, I just don't know how we're going to make it through this season. It's very difficult. The one horse that we have is getting tired and he's exhausted, and I need him in order to plow the fields. And the father says, okay, I'm not quite sure if this is good or bad news yet, but okay. And then the next day they wake up and the horse is actually gone now. The horse has run away, and the kid comes to the father and he goes, oh my God, now we're definitely not going to make it because, the horse ran away. Like, I can't plow the fields by myself. I need the horse. This is the worst thing that could have ever happened. And the father says, I don't know that it's the worst thing yet. And so they they go to work, they do their thing. The next day, they're looking over the mountains and the horse is running back. But behind the horse are like 50 other horses. And the kid's like, this is amazing. Oh my God. And he starts corralling the horses up and he goes, we're not even farmers anymore. Now we're horse breeders and we're rich. And the father goes, I don't know if this is good or bad or not. I mean, let's just move with it, but I don't know. And the kids the next day or a week or so later, he's in with the horses and he's cleaning them up. He's going to go sell one of them, and he gets behind one of the horses, and the horse kicks him and shatters his leg. So they carry him in. He calls some of the neighbors to help, because one of the neighbors is a medicine person, and they are over there, and everybody's like, oh my God, now this is the worst thing that could have happened. Now you're not going to be able to plow the fields, or you're not going to be able to sell the horses. You're not going to be able to do anything. This is the worst that could have happened. And the father goes, I don't know if this is good or bad yet. And then the militia comes the next day, and the militia says, we're taking all able-bodied men to war. Like, I need your son. And he said, well, you could, I mean, normally I'd be okay with that. But my son's leg is literally shattered. He can't even walk, let alone go and fight in the war. Normally, this would be an honor. We'd be good with this. And the militia guy examines him, decides, okay, well, this guy's leg is completely shattered. He's not going to be used to us. So they turn around. The entire militia rides off over the mountain, never to be heard from again, because they're all annihilated in war. Mm. So the moral of the story is, you never know what is good and what is bad. Even the things that seem to be the worst in our lives sometimes are just moving us in the right direction. And when I heard that story the very first time, I remembered, I was, when my first book came out, I was really running fast down this path of a book tour and traveling around and doing all these book signings. And I was really excited about that shift in my life and moving in this other direction. And I was not thinking about anything other than taking advantage of as much as humanly possible to get into that path. All the radio shows, all the TV shows, everything that I was being asked to do. And I was out with friends playing paintball, which the first time I ever did, last time I ever did, no desire to ever do it. It wasn't my idea to play that, but we were playing it, and had an accident where my leg twisted in the wrong direction, and I almost lost my leg. Like I tore all the ligaments out of my knee, got rushed to the hospital. They wanted to take my leg off. It was I'm really shortening the story, but it's a graphic story. And as I sit back and I laid in bed for many, many months after that, because I couldn't walk. And friends would come over and they'd be like, oh my God, this is horrible. You could still lose your leg. And I mean, it was horrible. And I never once got upset, because I knew I was walking down the wrong path. I'm like, whatever you want to believe in, whether it's God or the universe or whatever you want to believe in, is like, listen, we told you, we put these obstacles in your path to not go down this path, and you kept running as hard as you fucking could. There was nothing else to do but to rip your freaking leg to this point where you literally are going to be bedridden for a while. Like, now, relax for a second and focus.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a great story to tell and complement to what we're talking about. And I think to ground this, the most beautiful part for people is that this would not teach anything. It would only plant the seed for whenever you're in the moment where you're about to, you get in the accident or a divorce, or, life is going to happen. There's, for sure, count on it, there is going to be some curveball at some point in your life. But if we track our lives and we really go get our own evidence, I wouldn't trade personally some of the most difficult times, because I'm very aware, and I'm not just saying it to say it, I'm very aware and clear that it caused so much for me and where I am and where I continue to go. And the beauty of it is, when you can be in real time, like in real time, when these difficult times approach us, and really bring acceptance in, like ingrain it, make it such a habit with consistency. Like that is what my point in life is, to be in acceptance of all situations. And the only way I'm really going to deepen that is when the shitty ones come. And then eventually you won't even call those shitty anymore. Just like your Chinese man. You begin to have this, because everybody can do the hindsight's 2020. But what a beautiful, fulfilling life when you get that just because you don't have the clarity, you're not meant to understand it fully yet. You still link up with, there is a future you that's already going, man, this was great. This is what it cost for us. And you get to actually have the experience of it causing that, because people can stay in resistance their whole life and bitter and whatever. And even though it caused that, you don't even get to receive what it caused.
And would you say, which this is a rhetorical question, obviously, would you say that happiness in life comes from being able to get silent at times so that you could appreciate the path that you're on and understand sometimes that you might be on the wrong path?
Well, I would change the word to peace personally, okay, because I think happy, that's just like a fleeting thing. Like sometimes we're happy and sometimes we're, sad. But peace through it all, I think, can be that one consistent thread. And I would say that at that point, we can begin to get that there really is no wrong move, because even the wrong path is what's going to show me the most about the most aligned path. Yeah. Like I have to be clear about what I don't want to know what I do, or else I would never even have that clarity. And then what a load off, that I'm just so taken care of that there's no real wrong move. That was all just moving through my filters and opinions. And that's really an illusion anyway. Like if we really wanted to get deep about that, it is. Doesn't mean you're not going to have it. It's just kind of nice to know, like you don't have to put so much weight into how you think it should go and what you think should be happening, because that's really the source of all of our suffering anyway. But to answer your question, do I think stillness is the gift that keeps giving and keeps expanding peace in our lives? And we begin to get to this beautiful point of what I'll call neutrality, but a lot of people think that's boring, but it's actually the most beautiful experience, because you have a deep reverence and connection to the unfolding exactly as it is in every moment, like all the times, because they all need each other for any experience to be had. Like that deep reverence, yes, stillness is the gift that keeps giving.
Yeah, that wasn't my exact question. You said it so much more eloquently and beautifully. Mine was much more jumbled up.
No, whatever.
Yeah, but thank you for making it sound so intelligent. Hey, so you've got a lot going on. Like you are consistently super, I wouldn't say super busy. You seem to be super busy. So like I'm saying it that way purposefully, because you're in the studio quite often. When you're not in the studio, you're working with clients and you're working on the shift process, and it's constantly growing. And we didn't even talk about the mega freaking retreat center that you're building right now, which is immense, and I've not seen anything like it. And I've been fortunate to have traveled around the world, and I take care of myself, so I go to those kinds of retreats. So what you're putting together is crazy. So first of all, tell us about that, because I am going someplace with this, but I don't want to skip over that.
Yeah, so it's a hub. It's a hub for stillness, and also where I can put everything into it, like even the music, the shows. It has this place to have these big events, and the actual retreat component will be a little bit down the road. Right now it's going to be designed for you got all your cold plunge and your red therapy and all the things like that, and a great little place to snack and eat. But there's all these different beautiful rooms for stillness and all these very creative ways to be inside of that space and really fill your cup. And then, like I said, the room where we can have these events and I can use music as an outlet, because music, you just sit there and receive. And you gotta have stillness to receive too, and just be present enough to receive, but that's its own vibration. Sit back, relax, shed a few tears, and I'll do the rest.
Yeah, you said something and skipped by it so quickly, and I'm not going to let it go.
Okay, please. What did I
What
do?
the hell was you're like, it has all those things, your cold plunge and this and that. And so you did say cold plunge. Did I miss that? Was that, did I say cold
Yeah,
plunge?
there's gonna be a cold plunge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then my follow-up question, Angela, is, are you going to use the cold plunge? Because
Chris and I have an inside joke that I've never done this cold plunge, and I'm a woman of my word, so this is the month, and it's almost over, so I have like 5 days to fulfill on this cold plunge mission. I will report back for whatever reason. I'm terrified, but hey, go to the places that scare you, right?
yeah, so let me give you a tip on your first time in a cold plunge.
Thank you.
So there's a lot of things. Like, first of all, I don't know what it's going to be set at. If you're going to you're going to the place for a cold plunge, it's not like you have your own. So you don't have the ability, I don't think, to set the temperature.
I do not. No control here.
I'm laughing because it's going to be so painful for you.
Oh God, thanks, Chris. Jesus.
So, when I started over here, I started at, I think, 55 or something like that. Like I started like a baby, and then I went to 50, and then I went to 45, and then to 40, and then to 39, and that's basically where I am. Yours may be set immediately to 39, which
39, is that the thing? That's the thing.
that's the goal, I think. I mean, I know people who go colder than that, but I know people who go much colder than that, but that's my thing. Like, that's where I shrivel up in every way possible. It's like, I'm like, and I question why anybody would ever do this. I question whether it could ever be healthy for me. And I want to get out every single second that I'm there. I want to jump out, but that's about the temperature that I'm at. So, um, I'm grateful that you're doing it, but the tip that I'll give you is, put your video camera on your phone
Oh,
and record yourself.
okay.
And the reason why I say that, even if you throw it the hell out, but don't tell yourself you're going to throw it out. You got to trick yourself.
Okay. All right.
And the reason is because you will be holding yourself accountable, and you will be less likely to jump out, and you'll try to look professional and like it's not.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Can I just tell you this one quick little thing? When I was like 21, I lived in LA and I was
Mhm.
on this dating show.
You're on what? A dating show?
I was on a dating show. They found me at a club. They were like, "Will you do our show?" And I was like, "Sure, it sounds great." They fly me to Acapulco, and I'm doing this show with this guy, and it's just me and this guy, and camera crew, and there's clearly I didn't know there was an alter ego at the time, and I was terrified of heights, and they're like, "We're gonna bungee jump now," and I'm like, "Oh my God!" But do you know that even though I thought I was plunging to my death, I chose death over being humiliated on the camera.
Okay.
I survived, just in case you're wondering. But the guy didn't do it. And for the rest of the show, they put a big cartoon chicken head on him. 'Cause he didn't. Anyway, so I get your point. That's really great. I'm going to do that.
Hey, what's the name of that show?
I'm going to tell you.
What's that? No, I got my pen out.
We'll just keep that to ourselves.
We'll put in
Time.
show notes maybe later.
Okay,
Nothing?
we'll think about it.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, so I would put your camera on if I were you. And then, the other thing that I do every once in a while is I will put some kind of a show on, like a comedy show or something, on my phone, and watch it. I can't just listen to something. I need to be watching like as many stimulations as possible, my auditory, my visual, freaking everything. That way I am not focused on anything other than that comic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will
Just like the cold shock proteins and all the really wonderful things that happen inside your body when you are freezing to death in this.
oh my gosh.
All of that stuff happens whether you're thinking about it or not. So you might as well not be thinking about it, in my opinion. And then I set my 3 or 4 minute alarm in a 39-degree thing. It's definitely a 3 minute. So
Well, thank you, Chris, because you took me from terrified to traumatized.
terrified. Yeah.
Now I'm in trauma. Thank you.
Yeah, but you'll get through it, and then it will be called, instead of a trauma, it will be called a breakthrough. And you'll
There we go. This is like the bigger the fear, the bigger the breakthrough, right? Bigger the breakdown, bigger the breakthrough. Okay, good.
if you want, I'm sure that you'll have the owner of the place there with you. If you want, you could text me or call me. I will call you, and I'll be there with you. Like,
Wow.
definitely, I'll coach you through it. Like I
That
will.
is
I'll be
awesome.
like, you're not dying. No, you're not dying.
You'll be the little stillness in my ear. You're so safe. Breathe. I love
Um, okay, so what I was going to ask you before was, uh, so magic wand.
it.
Like we talked about the amazing career you have as a singer. We talked about the shift process and how you help so many people. We talked about how you're unifying it all inside of the new retreat center that you're building. Magic wand, next 5 years. Like, what's missing from Angela's life that would make it amazing, even more amazing?
This might be a boring answer, but just gonna tap in. You know what I've discovered for myself, and this was sort of a recent discovery, is like what really gets me going, like what really feels so satisfying to me is being so satisfied, like exactly as I am. And then everything that comes along, it's more like that makes so much sense. Cool. That makes so much sense. Cool. It doesn't have this like, yeah, Chris, you're not going to believe what happened. It's just like, I feel like I'm already, it. I feel like I'm already it. And everything else is just this beautiful little cherry on top, and I'm doing it. So really what you described, this big show, it's just like it's all just this next logical move, this next step that feels like in alignment with where I am.
Mhm.
I know that kind of feels boring, but it's like this is it. This is it. I'm here. I'm in it. I'm living it. And it's this ride that I like the component too, where it takes me to places where I haven't thought of yet. Like, I like the idea of being in this ride and then having an idea that's like, oh my God, I never would have imagined that. Like, and then just going boom there. That's kind of how I like to live. I like that. Like, I got really comfortable in that unknown place. And I think I thrive the most when I don't have it all figured out.
I love that. How did you get there? I mean, that's a destination. Like, that's something that takes so much work to get there. And so many people, first of all, I think there's really probably two kinds of people who truly strive to be there, people who don't understand that that's even possible, or that's not even on their radar. But I've not known you for a tremendous amount of time. I knew of you beforehand, right? We have some friends in common, but what I know of you now, and what I knew of you before, was always a very peaceful, intelligent person. Like, was there a time before that you were striving towards this and you were like a chaotic mess? I'm joking. Just where you,
Well, you should. I mean, let's just be relatable. Heck yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, I think chaos is really the door into peace, you know? It's the law of polarity. I think if I was just like a peaceful person, maybe like had this like just everything was so great. My parents were great, my brothers were great, life is great, and school is great. I mean, you'd be quite a shallow, very shallow person. There'd be no depth. So I think it's quite common that if somebody gets to a place where it just feels, where you feel around them, you feel that harmony.
Mhm.
What you're referencing is like peace. I think you can assume that they've gone through some chaos. So yeah, it's been an interesting ride, and I've definitely had my illusions and my deep suffering. But that's the part where I just wouldn't take any of that back. And I think it's like when I fully got that, my happiness, my peace, that what I ended up just like, this makes me feel so good in life, was all dependent on these circumstances, all dependent on how things were going. And then it could get stripped from me. It's like I didn't own that peace. I was always borrowing that peace. And I think, there was just a code to be cracked there. And I think sometimes like the suffering can be the door into that. When we reach a limit there, it's just like the what's the point, And I think I began to realize, I asked the question, is it possible for me to be the source, like independent of anything outside of me? And I didn't know the answer to that. I just went on the journey of that question. And I came to understand that the answer was yes.
So, like, we don't get there without a nudge. We don't get there. We don't have that realization that that's even available to us. We don't get there without support. So do you have support? I mean, you obviously do. Like, we all have our own support system.
Yeah.
So who's influencing you in a way that you feel stronger? Like, who's your support mechanism?
Like personally, I would say I'm really blessed in the family department.
I was gonna say, I was gonna
Parents are
go
my
in that
best friends.
direction. Yeah, that's
They're
wonderful.
really cool. It is not a pity hangout or an obligation. Like, they're cooler than I am. I love to hang out with my parents. They're the best. So I would say that that's a true blessing. I've just got those family roots where the more I grow, the more that bond gets, connected. My mom's in all done my work. She's in the classes, and this version of my mother, I swear to God, I've never met this woman in my life. She's 65, and she put a strip pole in her workout room because she just has this new liberation. It's so great. So no, my parents are cool. My father, entrepreneurial, brilliant, amazing man. To know him is to love him.
Yeah.
So that's been my rock. I've just been blessed. Not to say we haven't had our trials and tribulations, but they're an anchor. I love to just like, after a long day, I'll go over there and watch some weird little series with them. My mom cooks like amazing food. They're 15 minutes from me.
Oh, that's amazing.
Cup is filled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. What's your father? You've actually mentioned that he's an entrepreneur in past conversations with me. What does he do?
Yeah, he's in real estate. Basically, he owns state buildings, and I'm from New Mexico, where there's a lot of reservations. So he's in with the tribe, and like I said, to know him is to love him. So the tribe loves my dad. They love to work with my dad. So he's a very successful guy, and I think I get my mom's very giving, and almost like got a spiritual component to her. And my dad is just like this wild card. So I know I get that balance from both of them, that creativity, like outside of the box, deep connection. And then I'm also just like this wild card where I'd love to just pattern interrupt things all the time. It's just like my thing. I love to thrill people with like, they don't see it coming. I don't even see it coming. So,
Yeah, that's got to be what a blessing to your clients in the shift process to know that like a lot of them are entrepreneurs, and you were brought up in an entrepreneurial home. You have entrepreneurial blood inside of you. You are an entrepreneur. So to be able to relate to your clients on a level where you learned it from your dad, so you see it in them, and you live it in your own life and you see it in them, and then you have that balance with you, your mother and your father. Like that's a wonderful energy to bring into that.
yeah, thanks for acknowledging that. I mean, I really feel that gratitude. I do.
Yeah. Well, okay. So like this is outstanding. I've gotten a lot out of our relationship. Like when you and I talk, you have I don't know if you do it purposely or you just do it subconsciously. Like you kind of walk me through shit when we talk. You fix a few things. You fixed several things for me over the time that I've known you, which is really nice. Just informally, like just again, I don't know that you know you're doing it, but it's
I don't think I do. I
yeah,
don't think I do.
yeah,
But
yeah. That and the brand improvement as well, which is part of the shift process, right? I mean, when you work with clients, you work with them internally and externally. Like
yeah.
it's not it's so can you explain how that works? Because the way you've explained it to me in the past, I'm not gonna do it justice, but
Yeah,
it is an entire very synergistic thing.
for sure. And we're talking about sort of the one-on-one,
Yep, exactly.
very, very extensive process. So basically, I use if you are in, everybody has something that they're desiring, even if that desire would be peace in their life, like all these things happening, all these this abundance in my life, and I'm not connected to peace. So that just means that there are certain beliefs you have, there are ways that you're being, and there are thoughts that you have that are not in alignment with what it is that you want. So in order to begin to pull out those gaps, like pull out all that behavior that's essentially subconscious to you, what I start to do is I mess with your identity. And so we have this neurocircuitry that goes off that keeps repeating these patterns. But you, say, Chris, you were like, Angela, I'm interested in this way of being in the world. I have this sense of this. I really want to connect with this. And then Chris physically looks different there. It's not me making that up, but if you've ever seen somebody, I mean, for sure you can just look the automatic famous people, look at them before and after. I mean, clearly when they're in another frequency, they are holding a different presence, and that you can physically see that. So one of the abilities that I have when I go and I look at someone, I can just see them in that way. So it's not me actually styling you. It would be you styling you. And I just watch it. I just go, okay, I see it. So sometimes your hair looks different. So what happens though for people when we're also kind of looking into these blind spots, if you will, and then I simultaneously style you based on what it is that you're interested in, all of your little quirks are going to come out, because the mind will go, see that you're starting to be different. And especially if it's external, the mind will make that wrong. Even if everybody is in agreement that listen, everybody I style looks incredible. I'm just going to say 100 for 100, 100%. Okay, I'm just going to just say that. Let's get that out of the way. But you'd be surprised the meltdowns, right? And you give up control. You got to give up control. But I know what I'm doing. So what's happening is all of those things are sort of addicted to these old ways of being. Nothing is what it seems, right? You're never upset for why you think you are, better said. So when all of that gets exposed, then we can look at it. When it's subconscious and it's not exposed, you can't see it, but you can certainly see it when it starts to get activated. And so By the time it's a 3 month long process, and we just kind of do these check-ins with each other and make sure that you're focusing on the things, and really every single person that's gone through the shift process has had a massive shift. It's just like foolproof. There's a confidence behind it. All you got to do is like show up, and you're gonna have feelings, and you're gonna have to go through the stuff.
Yeah.
It's so worth it because it just kind of causes this higher frequency and a higher way of being. You walk in a room and it's just like and then what begins to happen is people around you start to go, Chris, what are you doing? Like, what's happening? You look so good, man. Did you get Botox? Did you, like, it's crazy the stories that I have with my guy clients. People just can't really put it together. Girls does become a little more obvious because you can do more with their hair and their stuff, and it's like, man, you look good. What's happening to you? But that validation ends up propelling people because then they start to trust more, and so it's a fun process, and you really have to be ready for a shift.
Yeah. So I'll admit something. Which I wasn't thinking we were going to be talking about, but so I've not been through the shift process, right? However, you did kind of you did I don't know, what would we call it? I was in your area one time and you fixed me with we re-wardrobed me.
Yes.
Really
Should we
quickly.
tell everybody your moodiness in the changing rooms, Chris?
Okay, so first of all, I
Resistance.
don't have moodiness. There was no moodiness.
Okay, resistance.
There was
Oh.
I don't know. It was a discomfort.
Yes, but it's so great because the moment, like, you just needed like, once you started to get in the groove of it, you surrendered a little bit more and a little bit more, and then before you know it, you're like, you're a little baller now. You got all these new clothes. Now you bought all these jeans, just like the pair of jeans we bought. It adjusted something, and that wasn't even remotely close to the shift process.
No, not at all. But the reason why I'm saying it, and we should talk more about it because it was a process, but the reason why I'm saying it is because, so the end result of that, it was nothing. It was a grain of sand compared to the shift process, right? It was one little aspect, and you can't take one little aspect out of an entire process like the shift process and say that you've done it. No, but this is one little thing. And so I've been on stage hundreds of times, no exaggeration, hundreds of times, all around the globe. But the compliments I got at this last event that I spoke at, which not only like again, this is hysterical. But so I was in your area. We went. You did your little fucking magic thing, and it changed my look a little bit with the wardrobe. And then part two of that is, like, I'm packing for this event, and I FaceTime you.
Yeah.
Lay everything out, and then we choose what I'm wearing on stage for 3 days. So three or it was actually more than that, outfits. But because we had 3 days on stage, and then we had several dinners, and I'm like, yeah, so I don't want to get this wrong. I just want to make sure this is right. Did everything from shoes, pants, belt, hat. I'm not hat, shirt, everything. And but I got so many compliments.
Oh, yeah.
In the end, so many compliments, and it was interesting. It was interesting. And here's the kind of messed up thing, Angela. I kind of rocked on stage. Like I'm like, you're really confident in what you do. Like, I fucking rocked on stage. Like I dropped like bombs on stage.
That you did.
And I had people coming up and complimenting me on my outfit.
And your shoes.
Oh yeah, I can't tell you how many people complimented me on the two of the pairs of shoes. Definitely, it was stupid. And I'm like, yeah, did you hear anything I said on stage? Like, no, I'm kidding. I got compliments on that also, but not quite as many. Um, so it was interesting, but the process was difficult. But you know what? It probably would not have been difficult for me had I been through the whole show.
Right. It was a little out of context. I don't do that. And like first, we, start to get acquainted and pull out some blind spots, get in the conversation, have you focusing on new things. Because once you have a new awareness, like what is that? It's like you're being explained something, you're being shown something in a way that you never looked at it like that before.
Yeah.
So there's Chris, and now you're holding hands with this newfound awareness and you're starting to walk through life like that. So I'm very aware of the timing. Everything is very intentional on when you would actually be ready for that phase. So we kind of just like forced you into that. But you did pretty good. All in all, you did well.
I cried very
that
little.
surrender button, you were good. You were golden.
Yeah, it was well worth it. I still have some things to get on my list that we talked about. Yeah. But yeah, and you introduced me to a couple of, different styles, name brands of clothes that I just went nuts buying out every color of afterwards. Like it was like a feeding frenzy for me.
Yeah, I really blank slate people though. Like I never go, here's the brand. There might be some stores that I'll go to, but I delete everything I know and then I'll blank slate you and I come completely empty and then that's when things just kind of like reveal themselves. It's not like a one-stop shop where everyone looks very like cookie cutter, that was a very unique style to you. And that's what I mean. I'm not really styling you. I'm just seeing you in that frequency. You're styling you.
So, a client of yours, if somebody's a client of yours or they want to get in touch with you and they want to work through this, the end result is far more than I'm about to say. But the end result from an entrepreneur standpoint, from my standpoint, is one of the benefits is you're more confident. You are people see you a little bit differently. Maybe you're seen as a leader a little bit more often. So if you're an entrepreneur and you have, like I'm in meetings all day long. If I'm in an office, then I'm in a board meeting and I'm standing at the front of that board table, right? And I'm talking to my team or I'm talking to my board of directors or I'm working on a whiteboard with a bunch of people. If I don't feel like a leader, I don't come across as a leader. And it's not just clothes. Clothes are one part of it, but the shift takes care of a lot of other aspects of it. But that's a major asset to almost any of our listeners to actually have a little bit of a leg up. And here's why I'm saying this, because I think the great majority of people, I'm going to speak for men only right now because I'm not a woman and I don't know this from a female perspective. But for a lot of guys, what we do is we'll go through and we'll build a business and we get lost in the business. And sometimes at the same time, we build a family and we get lost in that new life, which is a business and then family. And we completely know nothing about outfits or clothing ourselves outside of what our other coworkers or our other peers are dressing like. And I'll tell you right now, the great majority of my peers, they don't dress very good. Right? Then not only do they not dress very good, but their wives dress them most of the time. And their wives dress them just good enough to look professional, but not good enough to look attractive to any of the opposite sex that might be in the office, which I get, and that's totally okay. But when you're building a brand, I think the brand really needs to be built around you. And I don't think that just a regular person can do that. A really great spouse or a really great you, when you're going into a store, you could color coordinate things. but to actually create it for your looking to where it actually turns into a brand,
Yeah.
it's a special talent.
Mm.
So, and I appreciate the fact that you're, that's one of your secret weapons.
Yeah, thank you. No, I couldn't have said it better. It really, it's priceless because that, what you would say confidence, that sort of stepping in a way that has you vibing differently, like has you vibing higher. There's a ripple effect to that you just, it's a priceless ripple effect. It goes on and on and on and affects things that you can't even conceive of in all areas of your life.
It affects your way of thinking.
For sure.
Like I had this conversation the other day with somebody. One of my topics that I like to geek out over and really do a lot of studying around is cognitive performance. Like I am a beast when it comes to looking into different things that help me to perform better mentally. But I'll tell you right now, when somebody on my team comes in and they feel confident in the way they look, their brain functions better.
For sure. 100%.
Yeah, they're not wasting time thinking about what other people are thinking about them, or if somebody sees their pit stain or does their tie match. They're literally on fire because they feel confident in themselves.
Yes. And the distinction of, going through a process like this where you're also simultaneously discovering these newfound ways of being, this new awareness that has you removing, let's say, any filters or belief structures you didn't realize was keeping you kind of suppressed in whatever way that is. Then you also put a style upon that new awareness. You're wearing it in a way that it is you. You're not just like, the guy that had, like, you can tell he has a new shirt, and he just like I call those the Maury Povich makeover, where they're not quite in alignment with what they're wearing yet. So it kind of feels a little off, or sometimes feels a little too much, or whatever, just a little off. It's a whole different experience when you become that trend. Like, you are the trend, you are the brand. You're not copying a brand, you're not following a brand, you're not just trying to get a new shirt. You embody something really powerful. So it can be, I've had some of the stories I've had where people get on these big stages. They come from a place where they haven't even had like a following, and they just get so freaking confident that they just kind of take things over. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's in a lot of aspects of the clothing, from the design of the clothes to the color of the clothes to the way they fit.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's so many little, and by the way, most of this is second nature to you. So, I get the fact that what I'm saying is common sense to you, but for a normal dude who focuses on business most of his life, like, this is, it's helpful to hear, I should say.
It's baffling to me how clueless guys are.
What did you just say?
It's baffling to me how clueless a lot of guys
exactly
are.
what I thought that you said.
Where I live is kind of like the mecca of Scottsdale, and it's like where a lot of these guys you're talking about are, and I'll go to the gym, and it's just like, part of me wants to just go, excuse me, like, if you just do these 3 things, you have no idea your whole life is going to change, because but I can't do that, unfortunately. But I do notice, it's a notice. Notice. And here's the beauty of it. It's transferable. You don't need to be dependent, because once you get the beat, you are the beat. And you, just like it was such a small little glimpse, and you already got a beat, a rhythm, where it shifted the way, like, what you're going to find and how you're going to have them fit and the things like that.
Yeah.
Then it becomes fun to shop.
What'd you say?
Then it becomes fun to shop. Like, you look forward to it versus that, like, oh man, I got to go get some clothes.
Yeah. First of all, it'll never be fun to shop for me.
I take it back then.
I don't know where that came from, that fun to shop thing. But
You were all pumped. Stop hiding it. You were all pumped to get your new jeans and have everything fitted when you got back, Chris. You reported all the new clothes that you got. You were pumped.
Let me clarify that so that we are completely open and honest with everybody. I was pumped that it was over, in a good way. I was pumped that it was over, and I had really great outfits.
Okay.
I'm not pumped to go shopping
To
ever.
actually go into the store. Fair enough. Fair.
I enjoyed the process because you and I laughed through half of it, right? Or more than half of it.
Yeah.
But to say that I would go and do that by myself, it's not gonna happen.
Okay. All right. To each his own. But, I guess in fairness, you haven't really gone through the whole process. And when people do have it in that way, served in the way, and the pattern and the order and the stuff, there is a shift in how they look at shopping for sure. And it does have like more of like an excitement to it because they get the power. There's a power in it. And it's deeper than just the clothes. The clothes are only used so that you could materialize that feeling inside.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good way to put it. I will listen. I welcome the opportunity if it ever arises again to go shopping again.
All right.
Only because it'll be fun, but
With
I
somebody.
will show up with the same clothes that we picked out last time because it's the progression stopped after that. I just duplicated it many times over since then. And I'm very proud of myself for doing that, by the way.
Yeah, I'm proud of you too.
Thank you for that help very much. So if people want to hear more about the shift, if they want to get in touch with you,
Yeah.
where do they do that?
Shiftprocess.com.
It's shiftprocess.com.
Boom.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll put that in the show notes that way. It's a direct link to you. And I have a favor to ask you
Yeah.
before we end this. And by the way, this is completely unexpected. You did not know I was going to ask you this, so you can totally say no.
Okay.
You won't though. You can totally say no if you want to. So where does that feel in your body right now? You don't know what the fuck I'm about to ask you.
Excitement.
Oh, hey.
Like when people are like, "Can I ask you something really weird?" I go, "Oh my God,
Totally you
yes,
can.
please."
All right. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to attach a video of you singing at the end of this for everybody to see.
Oh, you mean just like sing something off the cuff?
No. Oh, well, yeah. Fuck. Would you do that? That'd be great.
Oh,
No, that's not what I
wait,
meant.
yeah,
I meant one of your
catch a
videos.
video? Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I was like, you're really gonna put me on the spot.
That's so listen, I as you know, really want to hear you sing in person, but I would never put you on the spot.
Well, the way you were building up to it, man, it was like, what's gonna come out of his mouth? Attach a video? Sure.
I put my favorite one on there.
Put your favorite one on there.
Okay. Because the one you sent me.
Okay, great. Yeah, that one, the Phil Collins, the remake.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Hey, Angela, this was outstanding. Thank you so, so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I had a blast.
I can feel it calling in the air tonight. Oh Lord, oh Lord. Do you remember the story of when you were small? You had a dream and dropped your wish into the stars. But I know the reason why you forgot who you are. You were told to stop believing in the magic